he really ain't fought nobody. So
is he annoying you more than?
Nah, he don't know. He don't know. Nah.
Where's he talking, on Twitter?
All over.
Yeah.
In the world, a lot of the world know me, and that ain't come from me fighting names. That came from me kicking ass and taking names and taking belts. So literally, only thing I had to do is keep doing what I'm doing. His coach know I want to fight him. The boxing world know I want to fight him. So next time one of y'all, somebody interviewing him, ask him that question. Do you have the balls to fight Keyshawn? Do you want to fight Keyshawn? Why don't you want to fight Keyshawn? Why do you want to fight Keyshawn? Ask him those questions. Don't ask me, because I will fight anybody.
Tensions erupted as Devin Haney went off on Keyshawn Davis during a heated live interview, dismissing his rising hype and claiming he has fought nobody significant. But Keyshawn says he does not need big names to prove his power.
He's delusional. I don't know what he's talking about.
When you saw
Boxing fans expected a normal interview. Maybe a few polite jabs, some predictable trash talk, and the usual we'll see in the ring energy fighters recycle like old gym towels. But instead, the internet watched something explode that looked less like an interview and more like a verbal uppercut heard across the entire boxing world, because during a heated live conversation, Devin Haney suddenly went off on Keyshawn Davis in a way nobody expected. And when I say went off, I'm not talking about a calm disagreement. I'm talking about the kind of tension that makes the air feel like someone lit a fuse and walked away the moment the clip hit social media. Fans reacted like someone just dropped the trailer for the messiest boxing rivalry since the sport discovered microphones. Twitter turned into a shouting match, boxing forums caught fire, and meme pages started celebrating like they had just found gold. Because when two elite fighters start trading words instead of punches, the drama gets spicy fast. And this exchange? Let's just say it made reality TV arguments look like polite dinner conversations. But the real question boxing fans started asking was simple. Was this just hype for a future fight? Or did Devin Haney just reveal what he really thinks about Keyshawn Davis? Because once you hear what was said next, the tension suddenly makes a whole lot more sense. The boxing world has seen plenty of heated interviews before. Fighters argue, promoters stir the pot, and someone usually throws in a dramatic one-liner about settling it in the ring. But what happened during this particular conversation involving Devin Haney and Keyshawn Davis felt different from the start. The tension wasn't playful hype. It felt like something real had been building under the surface for a while. At first, the interview started the way most boxing interviews do. Questions about future fights, upcoming plans, and the usual talk about who belongs at the top of the division. Nothing unusual. Just two fighters discussing the sport while fans watched, waiting for the occasional spicy comment that makes headlines later. But then the conversation slowly shifted toward Keyshawn Davis, and the moment his name came up, the mood changed in a way that viewers instantly noticed. Devin Haney's tone sharpened, his answers became shorter, and the calm energy that usually surrounds professional interviews suddenly disappeared. Now boxing fans know something important about fighters. These guys can smell disrespect the way sharks smell blood in the water. Sometimes all it takes is one comment, one slight, or one rumor floating around social media to ignite a rivalry. And apparently, there had been plenty of those floating around lately, because over the past year, conversations comparing Haney and Davis had been popping up everywhere. Fans debated their skills, analysts argued about who had the brighter future, and social media commentators started pushing the narrative that a clash between them could become one of the next big matchups in boxing. For some people, that debate was exciting. But for others, especially fighters themselves, constant comparisons can start to feel like a challenge. And fighters don't exactly have a reputation for ignoring challenges quietly, so when the interviewer casually brought up Keyshawn Davis during the live discussion, it felt like someone had tossed a match into a room filled with gasoline fumes. Nobody knew exactly what would happen next. but everyone could sense the atmosphere tightening. Haney didn't immediately explode. At first, he responded with controlled confidence, the kind fighters use when they're trying to keep things professional. But even in those first few sentences, viewers could hear a hint of irritation. Creeping into his voice, he began addressing the constant comparisons between him and Davis, and it was clear he wasn't thrilled about them. Haney has spent years building his reputation as one of boxing's most technically skilled fighters, climbing the ranks while critics watched every move he made. And, like many champions, he believes his resume speaks louder than hype. From his perspective, he's already proven himself in ways that younger fighters still have ahead of them. So hearing people constantly talk about Davis as if they're already on the same level might have rubbed him the wrong way. That frustration started leaking into his answers. Haney pointed out the difference in experience, the difference in accomplishments, and the difference in where each fighter stands in the sport. Now, none of that is unusual in boxing. Fighters often remind people about their achievements. But the tone of this moment made it clear that Haney wasn't just explaining his perspective. He was defending his status, and the internet noticed immediately. Within minutes of the clip circulating online, fans began debating every word he said. Some viewers believed Haney was simply stating facts about his career. Others interpreted the comments as a sign that he was genuinely irritated by the growing tension around Keyshawn Davis. Meanwhile, the interview itself kept escalating. The interviewer pushed the topic further, asking whether Haney would ever consider fighting Davis. That question seemed to flip another switch entirely. Haney leaned forward slightly, his expression turning sharper as he responded. He made it clear that he wasn't afraid of anyone in the division, but he also emphasized that respect in boxing has to be earned through real fights and real accomplishments. The implication was obvious. From Haney's perspective, Davis still had something to prove. That comment alone sent boxing fans into a frenzy online. Some viewers cheered Haney's confidence, saying champions should always defend their position. Others argued that dismissing Davis was risky, especially since younger fighters often use that kind of disrespect as motivation. But what truly turned the moment viral wasn't just the comment itself. It was the energy behind it. Haney didn't sound like someone casually answering a question. He sounded like someone who had heard one too many comparisons and decided it was time to respond publicly. And in boxing, when emotions start surfacing like that, rivalries can form almost instantly. Fans love seeing fighters who genuinely dislike each other. It adds tension, anticipation, and the promise that when they finally meet in the ring, the fight will feel personal by the time the interview ended. Social media had already begun treating the exchange like the opening round of a future showdown. Clips were reposted across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok faster than highlight reels after a championship fight. Some posts praised Akani's confidence and willingness to speak his mind. Others accused him of underestimating a rising contender. But regardless of which side people supported, everyone agreed on one thing. The conversation between Devin Haney and the interviewer had just turned into one of the most talked about moments in boxing that week, and the story didn't stop there. Because once the clip started spreading across the internet, reactions from fans, analysts, and even other fighters began pouring in. What started as a tense interview was quickly evolving into something much bigger, a full-blown debate about pride, rankings, and whether the tension between Haney and Davis might eventually lead to a real fight. And if the internet had anything to say about it, that possibility suddenly looked more exciting than ever. The moment the interview clip started circulating online, the boxing internet reacted the way it always does when fighters start throwing verbal punches. Calm discussion disappeared instantly, and in its place came debates, memes, and arguments loud enough to echo across every sports page on social media. Within hours, the clip had spread everywhere like wildfire. Fans were replaying the moment over and over again, pausing the video like investigators studying security footage. Every word Devin Haney said was being analyzed, every tone shift dissected like it was a championship round. And of course, the internet being the internet. People immediately chose sides. One group of fans said Haney was simply defending his reputation. After all, the man has spent years climbing the boxing ladder, collecting belts and proving himself against tough competition. From that perspective, hearing people constantly compare him to a rising fighter might feel like someone questioning everything he worked for. But the other side of the internet had a completely different reaction. They believed Haney sounded irritated because Keyshawn Davis is becoming a real threat in the division. According to those fans, the frustration during the interview looked less like confidence and more like a champion noticing a hungry contender knocking on the door. And just like that, a normal interview turned into a full-scale online debate. Boxing Twitter began arguing like it was election night coverage. Some fans praised Haney's dominance and reminded everyone about his achievements. Others started hyping Davis as the next big star who might shake up the entire division. Of course, memes arrived faster than a fighter sprinting to the ring. One viral meme showed Devin Haney with boxing gloves labeled "Experience," while another glove labeled "Confidence" swung toward a cartoon version of Keyshawn Davis. Another meme joked that the interview felt like someone accidentally turned a press conference into the opening scene of a boxing documentary. But beneath the jokes, something important was happening. The tension between these two fighters was suddenly becoming great marketing. Because boxing thrives on rivalries, fans love fights where emotions run high and both sides believe they have something to prove. Promoters understand this better than anyone. When two fighters start talking about each other publicly, the buzz builds naturally. The audience begins imagining what would happen if those words turned into punches inside the ring. And once fans start imagining that fight, the hype becomes unstoppable. Soon boxing analysts jumped into the conversation as well. Sports channels began discussing the exchange, breaking down the rivalry potential like it was the trailer for a future blockbuster fight. Commentators asked whether Haney's comments might push Davis to respond publicly, and that question turned out to be extremely important. Because in the modern era of sports, silence rarely lasts long. Fighters know that social media reactions can shape narratives just as much as fights themselves. When a rival calls you out or dismisses your accomplishments, fans expect a response. That expectation created even more tension. People began refreshing their timelines, waiting for Keyshawn Davis to say something. Would he fire back with his own comments? Would he challenge Haney directly? Or would he let the hype build quietly before speaking later? Meanwhile, the memes kept multiplying. Some posts joked that boxing promoters were probably watching the interview with dollar signs in their eyes. Others compared the tension between Haney and Davis, two classic rivalries where words turned into unforgettable fights. But the most interesting reaction came from longtime boxing fans who recognized a familiar pattern. They pointed out that some of the greatest rivalries in boxing history started exactly like this. A tense interview, a controversial comment, a moment where one fighter feels disrespected. Those ingredients often lead to fights that fans remember for years. Because when emotions are real, the energy inside the ring becomes electric. Fighters don't just want to win, they want to prove a point. And suddenly, that possibility became the biggest topic of discussion. Fans began asking whether a future Haney versus Davis fight might actually happen. Some believed the matchup would be explosive because both fighters have skill, speed, and confidence. Others argued the timing wasn't right yet and that both men still had different paths to follow. but whether people believed the fight would happen or not. The drama surrounding the interview had already accomplished something powerful. It made fans care. It turned casual viewers into curious observers who suddenly wanted to see what happens next. Even people who weren't hardcore boxing followers started hearing about the story. Sports blogs picked it up. Reaction videos appeared on YouTube. TikTok creators began explaining the rivalry to audiences who had never watched either fighter before. And that's when you know a moment has truly gone viral. When the conversation spreads beyond the sport itself and starts appearing in places where nobody expected it. But the biggest twist in the entire situation was this: neither fighter had even stepped into the ring yet. Everything that sparked this massive conversation came from words alone. In boxing, words can be powerful weapons. They create narratives, fuel rivalries, and sometimes push fighters toward matchups that fans never expected. A heated exchange can transform two athletes into headline rivals overnight. And that's exactly what seemed to be happening. Here, what started as a tense interview had turned into the boxing world's newest debate. Was Devin Haney defending his legacy against unnecessary comparisons? Or had he just lit the fuse for a rivalry that could explode into one of the sport's most exciting matchups? Because once the internet grabs hold of a storyline like this, it rarely lets go. The fans keep watching, waiting, and analyzing every new comment for signs of escalation. And if there's one thing boxing history has taught us, it's this: sometimes the most unforgettable. Fights don't begin with a contract. They begin with a conversation that gets just a little too heated by the time the internet finished. Replaying the interview for the 1000th time, the situation had evolved into something bigger than a simple disagreement. What started as a tense moment during a conversation had now become one of the most talked about debates in boxing circles. Fans weren't just discussing the interview anymore. They were imagining what could happen next. Because once a rivalry narrative starts forming, it takes on a life of its own. Every new comment, every reaction video, and every fan debate adds another layer to the story. Suddenly, the tension between Devin Haney and Keyshawn Davis wasn't just a viral clip. It was turning into a storyline people genuinely wanted to see unfold. Some boxing analysts believed the moment actually worked in Haney's favor. They argued that champions should defend their position with confidence and remind rising contenders that respect has to be earned. From that perspective, Haney's comments were simply the voice of a fighter who knows exactly where he stands in the sport. Other observers saw the situation differently. They believed the interview revealed something more emotional, the pressure that comes with being a champion, while younger fighters chase your position. In boxing, the top spot is never permanent. There is always someone hungry, talented, and determined to take it. That dynamic creates constant tension inside the sport. Champions must defend their reputation while contenders try to prove they deserve the spotlight. When those two forces collide publicly, the result is often explosive drama. Meanwhile, fans continue debating the rivalry like it was already a scheduled fight. Some supporters of Haney insisted his experience and accomplishments would make the matchup one-sided. Others argued that Davis represents the next generation of fighters who aren't intimidated by established names. The contrast between the two fighters added even more intrigue to the story. Haney is known for his technical precision, ring intelligence, and disciplined approach to boxing. His career has been built on strategy, control, and the ability to outthink opponents inside the ring. Keyshawn Davis, on the other hand, carries the energy of a rising star who believes his moment is coming. Fighters in that position often fight with something extra, the hunger to prove they belong among the elite. That hunger can be dangerous for anyone standing in the way. When fans imagine those two mindsets colliding in the ring, the potential drama becomes obvious. It's the classic boxing storyline of established champion versus ambitious challenger. The kind of matchup that can define careers and shape divisions for years. But before any fight could even be discussed, the focus remained on the aftermath of the interview itself. Sports media outlets continued replaying the exchange, asking whether Haney's comments would motivate Davis to respond publicly, because rivalries rarely stay quiet once they reach this level of attention. Fighters often feel pressure to defend their pride when their name appears in heated discussions. Pride has always been one of boxing's most powerful motivators, and the fans certainly weren't ready to move on yet. Every new interview involving either fighter suddenly became must-watch content. Comment sections filled with speculation about whether the rivalry would escalate or fade away. Some fans even began predicting how a future fight might play out. Would Haney's experience allow him to control the pace and dominate the bout? Or could Davis bring unpredictable aggression that disrupts Haney's style? Those questions fueled endless discussions across sports platforms. Podcasts debated the potential matchup. Analysts broke down fighting styles. And boxing forums looked like strategy meetings before a championship bout. But the most fascinating part of the situation was how quickly everything unfolded. One heated exchange during an interview had sparked an entire week of headlines and debates. That's the power of modern sports media. Moments that once would have disappeared quietly now travel across the internet instantly. A few strong words can ignite conversations, involving millions of fans around the world, and sometimes those conversations influence the direction of the sport itself. Promoters pay attention to fan excitement. Networks notice when a storyline generates buzz. When enough people start talking about a potential fight, the idea slowly becomes more realistic. Whether Devin Haney and Keyshawn Davis actually meet in the ring someday remains uncertain. Boxing schedules, contracts, and division politics are complicated puzzles that don't always align perfectly. But one thing is undeniable. That interview changed the way fans view the relationship between the two fighters. What once might have been casual comparisons now feels like the beginning of a rivalry waiting to develop. For Haney, the moment reinforced his position as a champion willing to speak confidently about his place in boxing. Champions often carry the responsibility of defending not only their belts, but also their reputation. For Davis, the attention surrounding the exchange may provide extra motivation. Rising fighters thrive on opportunities to prove critics wrong and show they belong among the sport's elite competitors. And for boxing fans, the entire situation created something they love more than anything else: anticipation, because the sport thrives on unfinished stories. Moments where tension hangs in the air and everyone wonders whether the next chapter will involve two fighters stepping into the ring to settle things for real. Right now, the rivalry exists only in words, reactions, and speculation. But boxing history has shown time and time again that some of the biggest fights begin exactly this way: a heated comment, a bruised ego, a challenge hanging in the air, and suddenly the entire world starts asking the same question. What happens if these two finally face each other when the bell rings? Face each other when the bell rings. So after all the tension, the heated words, the endless debates, and the internet practically turning into a 24-hour boxing talk show, one thing is absolutely clear. In the fight game, sometimes the punches start flying long before anyone steps into the ring, because one interview, one comment, one moment of raw honesty can spark a rivalry that fans can't stop talking about. And that's exactly what happened here. Devin Haney dropped some fiery words about Keyshawn Davis. The boxing world heard it loud and clear, and suddenly everyone is asking the same question: is this just heated talk, or the beginning of a fight that could shake up the entire division? Now we want to hear from you, because the comment section is where the real boxing debates explode. Do you think Devin Haney was simply defending his championship status? Or do you believe Keyshawn Davis is the rising star who might eventually challenge him for real? Drop your prediction below. Who wins if these two ever share the ring? and don't hold back. Because boxing fans in the comments argue harder than fighters in the gym. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the drama, make sure you smash that like button like it owes you money, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next explosion in the fight world. Because over here, the boxing drama never sleeps. One day, it's a heated interview. The next day, it's a press conference meltdown. And the next thing you know, the entire sport is buzzing about a fight nobody saw coming. So stay locked in. Stay ready and remember one thing. When the next rivalry erupts and the boxing world starts shaking, you'll see it first right here on Punch Press.